The weirdness of anime is why I watch anime in the first place. So I'm happy and excited about it. Hello and welcome to another damn anime podcast. My name is Nick, and I'll be your host. Here with me is my good buddy Joe. Joe, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. Yeah, it's just another Friday, or it was Saturday right now. Yeah, it's been a long, long time. We have the third episode here now today, and yeah, take it away. Tell us where we're starting from.
Yeah, so we are going to be doing the third episode of the Nier Automata uh, anime. We're going to be talking about about the Nier Automata anime, and yeah, we're on episode three. Things are heating up a little bit, but yeah, I'm just excited to get started talking about it. So basically, um, we have a little bit of a, I don't know, kind of a more normalized episode than the last one. I think the in episode two there was kind of a side story about some machines, and that sort of took center stage. While we also followed along a little bit with our main characters, but this one uh, has a lot more to do with the main characters, kind of, and what they're doing. So basically, where we ended up last time is 2B, 9S, and the Resistance people, along with Lily, that they met up with. They had just defeated some machines and decided to head back to the Resistance camp. And so, the beginning of this episode, they do just that. They go ahead and talk a little bit, and then they go ahead and head back to the Resistance camp, where they meet with some of the uh, people there. They, like, you are introduced to some shop owners that I remember from the game. The two guys that they introduced specifically.
They made that so video game like, and not even trying to hide it. It was I laughed because they're like, "Yeah, you need weapons and like, you need chips. We got it." Like, "I'll even buy stuff from you." And it's just like, wow, that's awkward as hell. But okay.
Yeah, it was pretty well ham fisted in there, but they talked to they talked to Lily a little bit. She apologizes for shooting at them sort of awkwardly. It's like, well, okay, I guess we're just gonna brush that off until later when it becomes important again. But anyway, it gets brushed off, and then we're introduced to a new character named Jackass, which is a kind of a crazy science woman who comes in, and I don't remember her from being in the game. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that if she was in the game, she was not important really at all. But she comes in, and kind of long story short, they elect her to be the one to drive 2B and 9S out to the desert so they can continue on their mission of trying to find the lost Yorha asset. Um, so they kind of have some goofy stuff from Jackass, and then they head out, and they drive through this kind of canyon and blow up a uh, a gate, and just kind of keep going on. Blow up, some kind of hijinks ensue. It's sort of funny, but then they get out to the desert a little bit more, and they run into some machines that they end up fighting. And kind of the interesting thing here is that 9S hacks this one machine, and he goes into it and finds these memories of some sort of celebration by what look to be people. So
Yeah, it's like the old civilization. And he sees this machine, but a very, mind you, the one he's hacking is like 3, 4 stories tall.
yeah,
But the one he sees in this memory is a very much a munchkin or minion, like, like waist high robot just jumping around, like cheering for this what looks like a wedding, and yeah, before he starts to come to a realization before he gets unplugged.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that memory is significant to people who have played the games, and I won't say how or why, but it is something that you would recognize if you have played. So for Joe's sake, I'm not going to say any more, but that is something to remember, Joe. I'll just say that much. Well, so I don't really remember what happens though next. Like he pulls out of the machine, and then they just finish off the
Well,
fight.
essentially, he gets unplugged because 2B, kills the machine, it looked like. So, because when he comes to, the machine's being destroyed, right in front of him. So that seems to be like the indicator. And then, yeah, right after that, all the machines are in pieces, and then you see Jackass be super excited about the parts and the face paint, trying to figure out if this is their concept of makeup, wondering if they can get some information from the mask or anything like that. And yeah, that's when realizes, oh wait, there's people here, or there's Jackass isn't alone, and then starts strikes up a conversation uh, with the two, and then pretty much says, "Oh yeah, let's continue with the conversation we were before we got interrupted, which was that they were sent here on their own mission, and they weren't the backup that was originally requested. But Jackass is going to go ahead and keep that quiet because it's better for the Resistance to believe in that they're not disregarded, and because if they knew that they were just like pawns and they were disposable, they would lose hope. So to keep that hope alive, they're like, yeah, we'll just let the everyone believe that you guys are the backup that we've been asking for.
Yeah, yeah, because it was just sort of serendipitous that they arrived right as the resistance needed help, but really they
Also,
don't care.
yeah, also I was gonna mention the what happened was during that ride they show the commander talking about how because they show footage of the resistance camp from like the pod point of view,
Yeah,
and the commander saying that like we did not send backup to them, and essentially goes on a little monologue saying like, yeah, they just happen to be there. We can use them. There's gonna they'll be our shield. They'll buy us some time for the virus. There's a potential virus outbreak, and that might buy us some time. And as she's saying this rant, some of the other underlings are like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" Like they start to question, like, and then they cut scenes back to the ground as they're driving through the desert. So that was a weird scene that they had right there, and yeah, it was just it leads you to believe that, of course, then the commander knows a whole lot more than what they're letting on, and the ones working under the commander have they're like apparently no clue. So
yeah. So they're kind of in the dark, and it's uh it's definitely not really buddy buddy amongst everybody that's on the Android side. Something that Jackass said too, I think, is that she noticed that the machines were painted the way that the humans used to paint themselves. Um, and she thought that was kind of weird and curious. So it's just another like example of the machines sort of trying to act more than themselves. And then they also had like capes and clothes, which was sort of weird. Um,
yeah, they were saying how they were scared, but they were attacking at the same time. So that was more 9S talking to himself, thinking that's a contradiction, and they're just mimicking humans. They're not. Plus, it's just like 9S seems to be very upset about the idea of them just mocking or pretending to be human because they're just like these shells.
yeah, exactly.
And
So
that comes up in a little bit later here too.
yeah, so they head on from that point, and come into an area like a block where humans used to live, like basically like a bunch of apartment buildings that are run down and consumed by the desert. Um, and as they're walking through this area, they find the corpses of dozens of androids, and one that even looks a lot like 2B. It has different hair, but otherwise it does look a lot like 2B. Um, and so they're kind of like looking through that, and it just sort of shows the carnage that's been wrought on androids as well over the
The
years.
one that looks like 2B is their missing unit that they were looking for.
Oh, it is.
I'm almost positive that's what they were
Is that
saying.
what they said?
Yeah, so that's, because they, it does look a lot like, 2B's makeup and, or build, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they respond to is, like, it's the missing unit, but then that's when, uh, they end up getting caught in the sand trap, essentially.
Right. So yeah, they find a pile of yellow machine of the yellow-eyed machines, and then go over to it, and then there's like some sort of sand trap, like you said. There's some sort of earthquake or something, and they fall through this, um, like through the ground as it sinks below them. And Lily is able to keep from falling through by using some sort of grappling hook. But 2B and 9S, they are sucked down, and it opens up and they begin to fall, but they are able to grab onto their pods and just glide down safely. So they find so once they land down there, they find really weird scene, and this is like a weird one of the weirder scenes from the game as well. That they find these yellow-eyed machines that are in a circle, and many of them are mimicking human sex. So it looks like they are having sex, but like they're just sort of ramming each other. And then some of them have
They
their
actually look like the, Penny Arcade, Precipice of or, like, yeah, I think it's the Precipice of Darkness, uh video game that they had, episode 1 and 2. Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness. That's the name of the series. And yes, episode 1 and 2, they have these rounded tin cans with a rounded top for a robot. Um, and they have a dispenser for in the groin area, and they're literally called fruit fuckers. So, yeah. So that's just reminded me of that. So thank you, Penny Arcade.
All right. Thank you, Penny Arcade. So yeah, so they're like ramming each other, and some of them have their arms in the air, and some of them have like their heads down by another one's like groin, and it's just super weird. But they're I
And one
think
of them's even just rocking a baby or like a fake like a, crib, and then just saying "baby" out loud,
yeah,
because yeah, just weird, human, mimicry.
yeah, and then after a while they begin to say this cannot continue, and they start to chant that, and then they begin to they break the circle and crawl up this or these pillars, into a spherical mass that's being held up by these like cross wire pillars. And it's this spherical mass made of other machines. Um, and then once they get up there, the entire mass begins to glow, with the eyes like yellow, and then it's like it opens up from the bottom, and this ooze pours out, and there seems to be light coming from there too. This ooze pours out, and out comes this human shaped robot, or like an android shaped robot, and then it forms skin from the ooze, and it appears to be a man with white long hair, and he is naked. Um, and then so all this happens pretty quickly, but like he appears, and then 2B and 9S attack him and kill him, stabbing him through the chest. They like break his he has like this force field shield that he makes. Well, they break that pretty much immediately, and then stab him, pretty much without asking any questions. So that's kind of weird. Um,
He does ask the question like, "Why?" kind of he brings up something along um like not why attacking, but like he's something in the midst of it, and that was like the only things he really gets off saying before before they stab him.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like 2B and 9S, they're like, oh, we just got to fucking kill this guy. And
Because they say he's the he's a machine life form, so he deserves to die.
yeah, um, still kind of a strange thing for like our heroes to do. Usually in anime, the quote good guys or whatever, I don't know, tend to have a bit more discretion, or they kind of think outside the box. But these guys, to be a 9S, they don't. They just like follow orders, and they don't give a shit. So they just pretty brutally stab this guy through the chest, and he dies, or so it appears. But a few moments after he dies, there is another man that crawls out from the first man's stomach, apparently from the stab wounds. And then that guy looks like a mirror image of the first guy. And then that guy, he attacks 2B and 9S immediately, sends them flying.
Yeah, with like a sonic or like some sort of pulse, essentially.
Yeah,
Like he screams and it creates a shockwave that's his attack.
some sort of pulse weapon or something like that. And then when the smoke clears, we see him holding, like fireman carrying or whatever, the first guy who's dead in his arms.
Princess Carrie.
Princess Carrie. That's better. Yeah, that's more accurate. Kind of Princess carrying the first guy who's dead, and then that's where the episode like officially ends. Um, so a lot of weird stuff going on. Kind of hard to follow, I would think, if you're not really attuned with the game. But pretty interesting to me, I think. So, yeah, Joe, what do you think? Do you have any questions?
I didn't really find it that hard to follow. I found Jackass's character to be
Sort of,
slightly annoying
yeah.
because I'm not a big fan of that overly hyped scientist.
They always do.
It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of is what it is. Now, in the beginning of the episode, the very, very beginning, when they first arrive to the camp, you actually see essentially a giant wheel. And from episode one, it's one of those Goliath machines. They had essentially it's a giant trench digger. It's used for large scale excavation. So it looks like a Ferris wheel but instead of cabs, like it's shovels.
Right.
And there's uh, one of the resistance members is talking like, yeah, it's there's a rumor or something like that. It's from large living life form or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I think it's fake. So they don't actually believe that theory.
Yeah.
So that means they've never seen it, but we've seen episode one, so we know that what they're talking about. And what actually is for a short time before they started showing some of the flashbacks of the previous civilization, and they started showing the ruins when they were driving through the desert. I was wondering if by chance there was a time leap between 2B from episode one and her reboot to currently, because uh, just because of the fact that I'm like, wait, is this desert where her and 9S black boxed it, at the end of episode one, and
Oh,
then just completely nuked the land, because it was all water in that episode. So I'm like, that'd be interesting if they just vaporized that area and then turned it to desert. But then when they started showing the flashbacks of the civilization, I'm like, okay, never mind. that that threw my theory out the window. But that is something I did have for at least like half an episode. So
yeah, that's a good theory.
uh,
Um, for Jackass, like the game is pretty dour. It's pretty. I wouldn't say it's like depressing all the way through, but it's pretty serious. There's not really much in the way of comedy, and I guess they decided that for the show they needed to have a bit more of something to lighten the mood, at least at the beginning of the episodes, in order to make people not feel like they were just like watching this. I don't know, like just so it wouldn't be so depressing. So I think that's what Jackass is kind of there for.
Well,
Um,
see, I feel like Jackass gave the vibe that, they know more, like, of what's, like, I don't know, it just seems to be I read that they know more than they let on, and there's possibly, um, like, something maybe nefarious, kind of, like, I don't know, I feel I think it was weird that Jackass was the only one to escort them out there, and then the interaction after Jackass was, like, looking at the robots and the busted parts and talking to himself, then looking at it and saying, "Oh, wait," it's like, kinda walks away and just, like, obviously smart enough to know that these guys, aren't their reinforcements, and I don't know, there's just, like, something about I don't quite trust,
Look,
the way they're writing Jackass, so
so the people on the planet, I see what you're saying. They are some of them are kind of dumb, but some of them also have an intuition that uh, that 2B and 9S sort of seem to lack. Like everybody on the space station um, is very much about following orders, and they're disconnected from the planet. Like they're like the way they act is like very much like cold and just doing what they are supposed to do. But people
oh,
on
they're
the
very much indoctrinated, yeah.
exactly. So like people on the planet or the androids on the planet and the machines on the planet, they are more connected to each other and to nature, and they seem kind of dumb in their own ways and less serious, but they also have other advantages that that the people or the androids from the space station, all the Yorha units, don't seem to have. Like they seem to have a little bit extra there. So I think you're catching on to something that is going on, um, but it's sort of understated and told through the feeling of the characters rather than overtly.
Yeah, outside of that, no, this episode is pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm more curious about the past, civilization stuff, and you
Yeah,
told me that it's a semi key point. So, yeah, and then there's essentially the end, which was another a potential ending for the game, I guess.
they're gonna do
Which
these through. These are gonna like these are gonna keep happening. As many episodes as they have, they're gonna because they have they have 26 endings of the game, one for every letter of the alphabet, and only five of them are I. They're not all true, but only five of them are like canon, or you could consider canon. The rest, so 21, there should be 21 fake endings, is what I'll say. And
and
this one is
this
pretty
one
funny.
was comical to the point where they apparently ride animals, and they run into Yorha unit and they all die. So they show 2B being essentially a bowling ball and the other Yorha units being like bowling pins, and they all collide, and then it's like, yep, that's it, they died.
As much as I mean, as much as I like the regular show, I think that these endings are the best part. Like they are silly and they're just made of puppets, but they're just freaking so cute and hilarious. Um, yeah, in the game you become able to ride the animals, and that's what it's kind of alluding to is being able to ride the animals. Though I don't think that I don't know, like using 2B's head as a bowling ball and just blowing up all of the Yorha units is like that doesn't make any sense. But it's fun and
Well,
stupid.
it's just the animal going out of control because they're going too fast, apparently.
It's
Um,
fun and
so
stupid.
yeah, I guess the big question is though, what are we gonna do for the next 3 episodes, or at least for the foreseeable future? Because I mean, they've now officially delayed episode 4 and beyond until further notice. So they've released a statement saying that uh, starting on the 28th, they're going to be re-showing episodes 1, 2, and 3 because of this delay, and they're blaming due to COVID, I guess. So yeah,
Well,
we
this show
yeah
might be short lived.
Yeah, or are they going to tweak these 3 episodes and start messing with us? As
Oh, that's a
I
good
could see them
point.
doing something, you kind of do the endless 8, but, just in this
Oh,
case, there are 3,
don't
and
do
then
it.
you just, there's a potential of tweaking, so, of course, people are gonna rewatch the episodes because why else? You're re-airing these episodes on TV. Are they gonna do any extra flavor? At least gonna change the end? They gotta do something, right? Or will they not? And will it be just 100% the same? So,
That is really weird. So I didn't hear about any of this. I hadn't been keeping up with the news. So they are re-airing the episodes.
1, 2, and 3, and episode 4 has been delayed to, the near future.
I mean, if it's anybody else, I'd be like, well, it's just whatever, COVID, some kind of production issue. But since it is Yoko Taro, you have to take into account, is he fucking with us? And I don't know. Well, I will if so. I'm watching this on Crunchyroll. So if it's re-aired and it's the exact same thing, then I don't think that there will be an episode 4 released on Crunchyroll. But if there's
Yeah, I'm
an
not sure. Crunchyroll did say that, it did have a statement on there. It says, they posted the same statement as everywhere else has been posting, but I hadn't seen anything saying that reposting the new episode, so I'm not sure. We'll see.
so if I'm gonna watch Crunchyroll and I'll keep it in mind. And if it is a true exact what repost and there's nothing different about it or whatever, then we'll just pick back up whenever they do finally launch an episode 4. And
Because version 1.1a, episode 1-1? Question mark?
1.1 or 1.5 or something like that, they might do that. If they do that and it's mostly the same, then we'll jump back on here and talk about what's different and maybe just have an abbreviated episode. And if not, then if it's just exactly the same, then we'll just wait until they do produce something new. Um, so yeah, that's kind
Or
of
we
going
can
to be,
talk about the whole episode 1 all over again like we never saw it to begin with.
yeah, we could just, yeah, yeah, we could just do it
Alright.
that way. But anyway, so um, yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say is the reason why I say kind of a weird episode is I don't really know what it's like to watch this from not knowing anything about it. So I worry about someone who's blind to this show and this series coming in and being like, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's kind of interesting. I would say that person would think it's kind of interesting, but also like there's a naked man and there's a man coming out of him. I guess it's just par for the course in the anime, but I would
Yeah, I was gonna say this episode was kind of like the most meh of all the episodes because it was like I feel like it's actually the weakest. I feel that
yeah, I'd say
episode
so.
1 was
Yeah.
super action heavy, ended with a unique twist of them detonating and then the whole being transferred, and I'm like, oh, that's a neat twist. Then you had episode 2, and that was tried pulling at the heart, the heartstrings, trying to give you a different concept of, a point of view. And then this one was just a straightforward episode. And you're like, all right, they're just going from point A to point B, had a fight scene in between, had a fight scene at the end. The ending is like, oh, that's weird. And now you have a bad guy because, the moment this person was like birthed, you murder him, and then he births on second self, and then they're like, yeah, something tells me he's not going to be happy, you know?
Yeah, I guess as things
So
go, this is probably the most straightforward, even as weird as it is. I just I like it though. I think it's the weirdness of anime is why I watch anime in the first place. So I'm happy and excited about it. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for us. I think short and sweet, and we'll catch you next time. Whether that's next week or someday, or
in the near future,
maybe the show's canceled after this, and it's goodbye forever. I don't know. So multiple endings here. Take your pick.
all right, take care, guys.
All right. Bye.
Take it easy.